Without wife. Yeah. No life. Without wife. That's it.
Yep.
That's the only song I know because unfortunately I don't speak Punjabi. So there's not a lot of the other songs I could sing along to.
We could have sung the Ashanti song where it was just like, India.
Yeah.
Her. You know what? She got a great.
She got a check.
Yeah.
We love
it was good.
We love a queen getting a check.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Showgays, a movie musical podcast where we talk about movie musicals. This week we're talking about 2004's seminal classic Pride and Prejudice. We are gonna call this a Bollywood film, but like with a lowercase b. Like it's like a Hollywood film with Bollywood elements, but it's not a film produced in Bollywood.
Yeah, not a full
clear.
Bollywood. Yeah.
Not a full. But we're dipping our toe. We're seeing we're seeing some different culture. It's very exciting. I'm tired of white people.
Yeah, clap. And this movie is too. In some regards.
In some regards and not in others.
And not in others, yeah.
Molly, how are you today?
How the heck are you?
How the hell are you, Molly?
I'm okay. I'm pretty tired. I told the boys it's camp season starting for me, so my days are long. But
You're teaching. You're a professional teacher of surf. Is that what you were saying?
Yes. Yep. I'm a professional sports instructor. That's what I do.
That makes sense. That checks out for us. Mm-hmm.
And we should tell the audience it's not a season of learning about camp. Because we do talk about camp a lot in this podcast.
Camp. It's not Sontag camp.
Yeah.
It is.
Because people are assuming that you're just teaching classes
about camp
right
Gosh,
now.
I wish.
And you're
that
like,
would be lovely.
Oh, I'm exhausted.
That's all this podcast is. What are you talking about?
I guess that's my second job is teaching people about camp on this podcast. But
Tens of people.
Scores of people. We do have a mailbag, by the way. But I don't know if you want to do more. I know.
No, I don't care about RJ's day. Let's do it. Let's do mailbag.
We were just gonna say happy bride.
Oh yeah, happy bride.
Happy bride.
Happy bride. We got an email about Brigadoon from Philip. Philip says, is on the button. Says, absolutely love your podcast. Thank you so much, Philip. Brigadoon has
hated Brigadoon.
You know what? He said Brigadoon has long been one of my favorite musicals. So I expected the remainder of the email to be complaints to us, but it was actually very generous to our take on it. He says Gene Kelly is my favorite entertainer of all time, and I've probably seen each of his movie musicals numerous times. Unlike my partner, but we don't need to dwell on that. I have a strange amount of Gene Kelly movie and biographical knowledge that will never be able to be used, and I've yet to find a Gene Kelly trivia night at any bar or pub. Oh my God. I mean, like a Gene Kelly one would be too specific, but like a musical theater night, I would kill. Yeah.
You'd crush.
Yeah. Almost Like Being in Love has been an audition staple for me when I auditioned for musicals. Heather on a Hill is a stand-up performance in the movie. That's your opinion, Philip, and I respect that you're an honest human being.
I love the song. The song was great.
Sure. He says, in my opinion, it's the best Sid Charisse Gene Kelly dance they ever did, even better than Singing in the Rain dance.
Wow.
So that is,
Wow.
Sadly, they co-starred in It's Always Fair Weather, but their dance together was cut from the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy
to have both of them and then be like, actually, the dancing isn't working.
It's not giving what the other girls were giving.
I really don't feel like this movie is slow moving at all. I remember watching it as a kid and being enthralled. We're so glad for you, Philip. We're so happy that was your experience.
Slay.
It honestly gives the same energy of like Adam watching. I don't know.
I mean, I watched like Mary Poppins and Sound of Music every day, and there are very slow parts of those films, but I was just like enthralled. I think also Philip, talk to me, send us another email. Let me know what you think about Sid Charisse. Because I feel like if I had been young, she would have been in my canon of like, I just want to be her.
Yeah.
Totally.
The way she just floats around that film.
That's the thing. She really, because of how she carries herself in the film, you could watch
ethereal,
her and feel like, like no time has passed because I'm just kind of.
If you're just sucked into the Sid Charisse of it all. Yeah.
Right.
And not the sad colors of the film.
He said the worst decision that they made for this movie was that they couldn't shoot on location, and that definitely hurt the movie, in my opinion. And then he says, anyways, I love the podcast. I'm always looking forward to more Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire, whom I also love movies. P.S. If you're always looking for a fourth podcast, if You're always looking for a fourth to podcast with. I'm always available.
Oh my God.
So
you know what? This is a classic boomer. Just go in and to ask if they have a job available.
I did. I joked with Rita because we were talking about career things, and then she was telling me a story about a job that she got because she was like in a staircase, and this woman starts walking down the stairs that had worked with her previously, and she was like, "Oh my God, we need someone to adjunct for us this semester. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "This is the most boomer story that I've ever heard in my life." But at least in Rita's story, it was like a person she had worked with. So it was like somebody who she actually knew and knew that she had the qualifications to do the job, right?
Yes, but also I believe Rita is a person who would understand that is still not how normally things happen.
That's not usually, people don't usually just get jobs offered to them in such a way. Yeah.
In the stairwell. But it is fun. I do feel like a lot of the people that write to us have at least alluded to like, I would love to also talk about the podcast with you.
Of course they. I mean, look at the people who are listening to this nonsense are screaming at their phones when they turn this on.
Absolutely, they have opiniones.
Yeah,
yeah, of course they do. Have you ever been a musical theater fan? But unfortunately, Philip, you didn't start the pod, so I'm just kidding.
Didn't start it either, but I managed to get on here.
Yeah, she did. She actually holds us at gunpoint every time we do this. We're under duress each week.
I know we kiki kaka about that story where we met at Sidetrack and she did a proposal of like bringing the pod back, but that was under duress.
It was. She slipped a note across the table that said, "I'll slash your throat if you don't let me join the pod and restart it."
And we said, okay. "So Molly, would you like
Molly? Funny thought I just had."
I will neither confirm nor deny any of that.
I'm going to actually have to speak to my team before I answer that.
Yeah, we'll have to speak to Rita before I answer. But keep the mailbags coming because we love it. We love to hear it.
Fuck.
Oh no,
it's your turn.
You?
It is me.
Adam.
Okay, it's just Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
It's just Pride and Prejudice. I can do this.
Some of the names are there.
And I have the names down here.
Okay, Adam. Well.
Oh, God.
Well, Diva Girl.
Okay.
You have been tasked this week to summarize the movie Bride and Prejudice in under a minute, and your time starts now.
Mr. and Mrs. Bakshi in Amritsar, India, have a family of 4 daughters, and none of them are wed. There is a wedding happening in town that they all go to, and a very rich barrister who's Indian British comes back to India. His name is Balraj, and he falls for Jaya, who is Lalita, the main character's older sister. Lalita gets noticed by Balraj's friend Darcy, who is also there, but he's kind of a douchebag. Lalita and Darcy don't hit it off. They butt heads. She's very strong-willed, and he's a jerk. Chaos ensues. There's a character named Wickham who catches the eye of Lalita, and they start to have a little fling. Mrs. Bakshi has another I don't remember his name. Another character. There's another character who visits from America, and a cousin, and he ends up trying to woo Lalita, but she doesn't like him either, and so he ends up with her friend Chandra. So they get invited to their wedding. They go to London first because Jaya might meet up with Balraj, and then he is in New York, so that doesn't happen, and she's basically rebuffed, and she's very upset about it. And then they go to this wedding in LA, and Lalita sees Darcy again, and on this time they kind of hit it off, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I was wrong about him," but then she realizes that he was the reason that Balraj left rejected Jaya. And so then she's mad at him, and then he reveals the truth about Wickham, which is that he's a worse douchebag. And then Wickham, at the same time, they're back in London. He takes her younger sister. He tries something weird happens there. They get her back. Her and Darcy end up together, and Balraj and Jaya end up together, and it's a double wedding at the end. It's basically Pride and Prejudice.
I mean,
you could say it's like Pride and Prejudice.
It's really, everyone is a 1-to-1. I think the biggest change between this and Pride and Prejudice is just that there's only 4 daughters.
There's only 4 daughters instead of 5.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it.
But honestly, Kitty's not doing much in Pride and Prejudice, so I think it's a fair cut to make. But yeah, it's very one-to-one. Lolita is Lizzie, Darcy is Darcy, Jaya is Jane, Wickham is Wickham. They just it's the exact story. Yeah.
So I think I did pretty well for not writing it down.
For not writing it down, sure. Yeah.
For a 4.5 minute. Yeah. What? Okay, so I'll say I remember when this movie came out, but I've never seen it, and I've also never seen Pride and Prejudice or read Pride and Prejudice.
Wow!
So I read the like Sparks note of Pride and Prejudice today in preparation. So, and that's when I was like, oh, it really is like kind of grafted exactly onto it. So, I've never read an Austen. Ever.
When was the Pride and Prejudice Keira Knightley movie?
2005.
Oh.
The next year.
So was there a recent Pride and Prejudice when Pride and Prejudice was made? Like, was there one like a BBC or anything like that?
There was a BBC in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah.
Okay.
It's Colin Firth as Darcy, and there are many people.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
The most significant version.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who directed? The one who did Cyrano directed Pride and Prejudice, right?
Correct. Yeah.
We talked about this.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And who plays Darcy in the Keira Knightley one?
It's Matthew McFadden, aka Tom Wamsgams.
Yes, from
Succession.
From Succession.
I was like, is he one of the cats and cats? Tom and here comes Tom Wamsgams.
Tom Wamsgam, the Succession cat.
The Succession cat. Molly, I know you know Pride and Prejudice. Do you know anything about Bride and Prejudice?
I hadn't even heard. I don't recall hearing about this movie coming out at the time, but yes, the 2005 Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm obsessed with it, so I can say pretty confidently that it at least follows the beats of that movie adaptation. I did read the book in high school, but like for an English class assignment, I don't remember it all that well. And I remember enjoying the movie a lot more than reading the book. Sure. I'd be interested to know how I would feel about the book, now as an adult. So yeah, I didn't know. I knew that this was going to be based on Pride and Prejudice, but I didn't expect it to be quite as faithful of an adaptation as it was. Yeah.
What's your overall Austen knowledge?
I would say I'm a light Austen fan. I also quite liked the Anya Taylor-Joy Emma that came out in 2020. That was really good. So I would say I like Austen when it's being done up and modernized a little bit, and then I really like it. But I love an enemies to lovers thing too. So that's why Pride and Prejudice really kind of pushes all my buttons.
Yeah. RJ?
I also had not seen the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice or read it, but I have also watched the Anya Taylor-Joy Emma. I listened to an Audible of Emma Thompson reading Emma.
Oh,
I've seen Sense and Sensibility.
Sense and Sensibility is such a good film.
Yes. And we all saw Mansfield Park. We also saw a stage adaptation of Mansfield Park.
Austen's greatest work, as we all know.
I've seen I haven't seen the full Gwyneth Paltrow Emma, but I've seen clips of it. And
you've seen Clueless.
And I've seen Clueless. I've seen, I guess I'm all in for, I guess I'm more of an Emma stan because I've seen that story. I've seen it more. But
is Clueless the only Austen that was in that era where they were taking classics and modernizing them? Is that the only one that got that treatment for Austen?
Oh, for Austen. Yeah, because Gwyneth Paltrow's Emma was pretty
it was just Emma.
Yeah, it was Emma.
Yeah, I can't think of any other examples, but I might just be not thinking of it.
I was surprised that because I feel it would have been right up oh my God, what is her name? Marie Antoinette.
I mean, I guess
Sophia Coppola. It could have been no,
I mean, I guess technically Bride and Prejudice is that. Yeah.
I did know Bride and Prejudice when it came out. I didn't watch it, but this was when I first moved to America. I was kind of a latchkey kid because my mom would work nights. So my brother and I would, and then my mom was like, hey, there's this thing called Blockbuster. And so my brother and I would just like take the bus and go to Blockbuster, and we would just like rent out movies and stuff like on our own.
In Phoenix?
Yeah, in Phoenix. It was
There
still
were buses
around.
in Phoenix?
Oh yes, girl.
Wow.
But I always saw it, but it was always like rented out. I never. So the girly, it's some South Asian Austin girly in Phoenix was like really living for this movie. But I always remembered seeing it and was like, oh, I would love to watch that. Because I had seen, okay, go with me on this, a Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, how does this tie back to American Idol? Please let us know.
In season 2 of American Idol, there was a contestant that I really liked named...
I want to know more about how your day was, Molly. I just feel like we really haven't gotten to it.
There was a contestant that I really liked. Her name was Carmen Rasmussen. She was like a country yodeler. And I was like, I'm obsessed with her voice. After American Idol, she was in a movie called Pride and Prejudice, a latter-day movie. I had no idea I had no idea what Mormons were. I literally didn't know. I watched this movie being like, oh, it's a Pride and Prejudice. It's a Jane Austen. And it was just like set in modern time, but they were like Mormons. But I would not have guessed it if I was just watching the movie.
Was it good?
It was kind of like TV movie-ish. It kind of felt like camp, like the movie Camp with Anna Kendrick. Like it kind of felt that way.
Cheap.
Yeah. And like a lot, just like teens doing Pride and Prejudice. But she was like, I think she played the Ashanti role. She just like was a sing. She just like
showed up.
She was here this whole movie just for that. Wow.
Because I just wanted to see her. So I guess I had seen the story of Pride and Prejudice, but none of the plot stuck to me because I was because it wasn't really that good of a movie. But I have seen a Mormon interpretation of Pride and Prejudice, so
sure.
Not a musical,
No.
except for the one song that she sang.
Well, before we talk about Pride and Prejudice, I have to give you some historical background on Pride and Prejudice. So Pride and Prejudice was published in 1813 and it was written by Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice came out in 2004. It is directed by Gurinder Chadha, who also directed Bend It Like Beckham, which was like a huge hit. Written by... Oh, this is so small on the screen. Hold on. I got to blow her up. It was written by Paul Maeda Burgess and Gurinder Chadha. It's based on Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's produced by Gurinder Chadha and Deepak Nayyar. Okay. I tried to look these up. So here we go.
Okay.
It stars Aishwarya Rai as Lalita, who is Elizabeth Bennet. Martin Henderson is Darcy. Daniel Gillies is Wickham. Nadira Babar is Mrs. Bakshi, who is Mrs. Bennet. Anupam Kher is Mr. Bakshi. Naveen Andrews plays Balraj. Oh, what is his name in Pride and Prejudice?
Bingley.
Bingley. Yes, that's right. Indira Varma plays Karan, who's Balraj's sister. Namrata Shirodkar plays Jaya, who is the older sister, Jane. And Sonali Kulkarni plays Chandra, who is her friend, Charlotte. Cinematography is by Santosh Sivan. It is edited by Justin Krish. Music is by Anu Malik. The production companies are, here we go, ready? Miramax Film, Pathé Pictures, UK Film Council, Kintrop Pictures, Bendit Films, Inside Track Films Media, and Bride Productions. And in the United States, this was distributed by Miramax Films. It was released on October 6, 2004 in the UK, but it was actually not released until February 11th, 2005 in the United States. So this and Pride and Prejudice in America came out the same year.
Whoa.
Wow.
Which
is
year.
So wild.
Yeah.
The running time of this film was 111 minutes. And its budget was $7 million and it made $24.7 million.
Whoa.
This is back in the era of the mid-budget film.
Yes.
Remember those? We don't have those anymore. They're all on streaming.
Yeah. No more maids in Manhattans.
Yeah, no.
No more big fat Greek weddings.
So there's not a ton that I could find out about this movie. apparently No Life Without Wife was Chadha's, her father's saying as she was growing up. So that's where, like, I guess that phrase came from for the film. Darcy was considered for Johnny Depp and Joaquin Phoenix. There is an Indian actress that Lalita was offered to, but she declined it. But I didn't know her, and I had a feeling that our listeners would not know her. So I should have written it down, but I didn't. But she was not the first choice. But Aishwarya is so gorgeous, and that might be the only thing I talk about for the next 2 hours. But she was, so in 2000, India made a version of Sense and Sensibility, and it has an Indian title, but she's in the Sense and Sensibility. So she's been in 2 Indian Austen adaptations, which is really funny. And this will come up later, but in the up until the 90s, Indian censors did not allow kissing in films. And so this movie, I saw a couple things as one, the reason they don't kiss is because historically Bollywood films don't kiss generally. That's not a thing they do. They show their affection in other ways. But then I also saw that she asked the director to not kiss. It was a personal choice on her part. So I it's probably a combination of both. But I thought that was very interesting because it was as it was our first kind of Bollywood movie. It's not really, obviously, but I was expecting a kiss, and then it did not happen. So I was like, oh, what's going on? So I as soon as the movie.
There's definitely a scene at the end that's this is the moment that they kiss.
Kiss,
not just I expected a kiss kind of passively, but there's a lead up of and this is it. And then they hug each other. And
it felt it was just interesting. So then I immediately was what's happening? Yeah,
I did the same thing where I tried to Google it. Yeah.
So in 2005, I chose the week that this film was in the most theaters. I think at its biggest week or its highest week, it was in 800 theaters in America. So here's the top 5 of that week, because it was 15. Top 5. Number 5 was Hitch. The Will Smith comedy. Number 4 was Hostage with Bruce Willis. Number 3 was Be Cool, a film I do not remember at all. Number 2 was The Pacifier with Vin Diesel. Okay. And number 1 was Robots, the animated movie about robots.
Yes.
Robots.
Animated movie about I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a light blue robot.
It's a light blue robot, and he looks very 50s design.
Yes, it's gears. Very yeah.
Very Buck Rogers.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
I did not know it was number 1 in America. That movie made $36 million in its first week.
Wow.
We lived in a really different time in 2000.
I should be able to make $36 million if that movie made $36 million.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Also, I do want to point out that I don't think we've ever had this happen before, where it's perfectly 20 years since this movie came out.
Whoa. Oh, wow.
So that's really interesting. And I do think there are some things about watching it now as opposed to then that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, let's talk about the movie. I'm curious to know, since you are obviously our Austenite here.
I thought you were going to say because you're our only person of color, but I love that that's not where this is going. Yes.
No, and you're sick for thinking that, Molly.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I saw someone's race.
I don't see color, Molly. I am what probably most people would have wanted as an answer in 2004. What did you think of this movie, RJ?
I had a really great time. I think I agree with Molly with the whole enemies to lovers. It's my favorite trope. I love it. And so I was already in a place of okay, I'm going to watch it's going to be a romance, obviously, because it's an Austen. We already know that it's going to play with the tropes. Because I knew the framework, the basics of the story. I really just wanted to see how they were going to adapt it into the Indian culture, which I I knew that it was gonna dip into obviously like the quote unquote arranged marriage, like idea. So it's
so funny because I completely forgot that is an aspect of like Indian culture.
Yeah.
So when we got to it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's a thing.
Indian matchmaker, honey, on Bravo.
On Bravo.
So
it's Molly's favorite show.
Yeah. So I was really interested in seeing how they were going to play into that. And I thought the script did a really good job. Like I genuinely it didn't feel speaking specifically about like the cultural adaptation, it didn't feel sweaty. It felt very much like, there's love for the culture and trying to like give understanding to like why things are. Mm-hmm. I love that it was not set in like New Delhi, like it was set in like a smaller town,
right? Just like an Austen novel where it's always set in like the country.
Yeah. So it is like a deeper slice of life of like what just like like regular people would be experiencing. Mm-hmm. So I did like that. I had a really good time. I thought that the music, I knew that it wasn't going to be as lavish as like a 3-hour Bollywood movie, but sure. I felt like it was still enough. I could feel a little bit of like, let's kind of make it palatable, like certain lines, like in basically like Kieran's whole character was just like an explanatory comma for Darcy for like the first half of the movie.
Oh, where she's like,
this is how India works.
The wedding. Yeah.
But I was kind of like expecting that, knowing that this was like basically like a British film, or a big part of it is a British film. So, but I had a good time. I really liked Lalita as the character, and like and I think the writing did a really good job of keeping the Lizzie Bennettness, but then like making it very specific to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Molly.
This is the most fun I've had watching a movie for this podcast, and I feel like a year.
I know. What was the last one? Genuinely.
The last one that I had a lot of fun watching. I can't even remember. Zombies, ZOMBIES 3 probably was the last movie of this caliber to me. I mean, I didn't love the music itself. I thought that the songs were a bit... they felt written for a movie rather than like musical caliber level. But look, I love Pride and Prejudice. This was Pride and Prejudice, but with some extra colors, with some colors sprinkled in. I loved the way that they used the sort of like cultural misunderstandings to add into the Pride and Prejudice plot. Like I thought that they were really smart about how they used the East meets West, I know is like a little bit, but like I liked the way that they took the bones of Pride and Prejudice and then were like, how could we add in this element of like she's like he's maybe expressing some attitudes that are a little bit biased and she is a little bit overreacting at the same time to what he's expressing. So it felt like a real, like it is just the, like you're misinterpreting each other in the first conversation and then that leads to, and that's really what Pride and Prejudice is all about. But I thought that they did a good job of walking a line of, it wasn't like he was like actually a jerk, right? So like he was redeemable still. And I was very like on her side. You don't think he's redeemable? Okay, well we can talk about it, but
we'll talk about it.
Maybe I was biased to see him as redeemable because I knew the whole time like this is what they're betting. Like
he has to be redeemable, right?
So I thought that they did a really excellent job of modernizing it and adding in this two cultures meet element. And do you know what I loved? And I don't know how much this was an intentional thing that they did because they knew that they were going to be catering to a Western audience. But I love that we started in India. I mean, because theoretically the film could be still a cultural misunderstanding, but we could start in the US or the UK and then go to India at some point. And I loved how we spent so much time first in India that then by the time the characters were going to the UK and then America, I felt more like I was able to see it from their perspective of this being a new place to them and being in comparison to what they were used to in India rather than being like, I don't know how to even describe if it had gone the other way, but like it got me very comfortable in the world of the characters in India. And then it was interesting to then see especially the US through their perspective. I mean, especially like the scene where she's like dancing outside of the cousin's house.
Yes.
Where it's like the most suburban new build. They've still got like the sandbags lining the sidewalk because they haven't put in the sod for the grass yet. Like it's so like devoid of color and personality. And then to see her doing this Bollywood style dance in it is like so funny. And so I just thought that they did such a great job of like, then I understood the contrast of how funny it was to see her doing that in the US because I had seen it in the context of like in the market, in the beautiful settings, you know, all that stuff.
I do think it's very funny the way this film, because apparently, so one of the production companies that I read was UK Film Council. Mm-hmm. So in order for them to have helped produce this film, a portion has to be filmed in the UK. So I thought it was very funny that obviously India looks stunning in this film. Like it's lush, it's beautiful, it's so colorful. They go to England and it's kind of like just jolly old, you know, like whatever. It's like, and then the way they show America, like the way we introduce to America is the like the little McMansion that like is just like grayish, which is very funny. Like it's a very, I think, British way of being like America.
They do show like obviously getting into a helicopter on like a skyscraper in LA, and then took the helicopter to the Grand Canyon, which that can't be a short flight. From
LA
to
the Grand Canyon.
I don't know how fast helicopters can go. I think you can take trips to the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas though. So I bet maybe you should do it.
Maybe they flew to Vegas. Maybe that was actually Vegas.
Maybe.
Because we don't know.
We don't know.
I also,
there was a part of that where I was like, is some of this a dream? I couldn't tell during that sequence how much was like not real.
I don't think there was a real gospel choir on the beach.
Well, you never know in America,
honey.
Cultural.
But yeah, I agree. They do make it. It's funny that they make it clear that like America looks kind of blah. The only lush part of America is like the rich part, which it looks like an English garden, like where the wedding was.
Yes, at the hotel.
The
Darcy's hotel. Yeah.
I think of the three of us, I was probably the coolest on this film, unfortunately. I did enjoy myself and I liked it. But I think so much of Pride and Prejudice or any rom-com, which is basically what this is, has to hinge on the chemistry of your main two leads. And I, unfortunately, did not buy them as a couple. And if you don't buy them as a couple, and this is any rom-com ever, if you don't buy the main couple, you're not going to really have a great time because you're going to be like, well, this is silly.
Yeah.
So there is a level of like, and I can't tell if part of it is like watching this in 2024 is a very different experience because the way that like American imperialism is like kind of joked about and then like kind of like not brushed off necessarily, like they do address it, but like it gets overcome very quickly, is like, it feels different now. It feels like we're in a different era in terms of just like talking about like colonialism or even like how the way I don't even remember what the cousin's character name is.
Yeah, this is gonna bother me. I should look it up. Okay,
please do. The way he comes back and he's just like talking about how great America is and like shitting all over India. And I do think the film does a good job at being like, because you're on Lalita's side, so like she's like really upset at this, so you feel like upset for as well. Like I think it does a good job of conveying that, but there is just like I don't know if that was like a part of the reason that the chemistry was like hard for me. But I did buy her and Wickham's chemistry. I'll say that, but I would buy anything Wickham sold me. Because he was
I do think their chemistry was really good when they were fighting. And I mean, like, that's part of the enemy lovers thing of like, it's gotta look hot because like part of them hating each other is like an attraction to each other.
Yeah.
And I do think that they were she looks like she really hated him, which I was kind of like eating up. I was like, ooh,
yeah. She gets some really good zingers in there for sure. Yeah. And I would say if I really had to get like specific about who I feel like was not working for me, it was not her. It was
Miss Darcy.
Yeah.
Darcy was a bit of a wooden plank, which is hard because Darcy traditionally is like kind of like a stiff jerk.
I want to quickly just divert and say Mr. Coley is the name of
Mr. Coley. Yes.
It's the Mr. Collins character who is freaking hilarious. That scene when when like Mary's like practicing the guitar or whatever, and he's like just doing the power walking thing and just like so much hips. It's so funny. Okay. Anyway, I agree that like I do think that the Darcy was a little bit wooden, but because I know that that's the whole deal of the character, I felt like it worked. I felt like he was playing the character of a little bit wooden, a little bit awkward guy that like, which helped, and it helped me to feel like it's not really that he had like super problematic views. It's that he wasn't very good at articulating himself and maybe didn't always think through exactly how he said things. So I didn't find it to be a drawback that she was a lot more sort of vivacious than he was on screen, because I feel like that's sort of supposed to be the character dynamic.
Right.
And it really worked for me in the final scene when she finally turns around and sees him and he's doing the drums. Like I definitely swooned a little bit. I thought it was great.
She was looking for him. Yeah, I think now that you say that, I do see that, because it was kind of like pretty harsh for me in the beginning where he was just kind of like, wow, you know, like Hicksville in India or whatever.
But he said that because the Bingley, Balraj had said that about the place that they were in. So like he was
right.
He was not thinking through like, oh, this isn't the audience for this comment because like she doesn't know that I'm getting that from Balraj who said it about here. And so I thought that was kind of like, right.
That's
so like I
thing.
feel like that's where he messes up more so. And like, and he's also like, he's a big old capitalist, right? He owns his hotel chains and he's like thinking about things very much through like a business lens and that sort of thing. And so like, that's maybe not the worldview that I like think should be front and center in cultural conversations, but like he's just kind of stuck in his work mode and like not really thinking about like how would I best say something that's like socially polite and pleasant to say to somebody I've never met before.
Right.
So I don't know. I didn't find any of the things that he said. There were things that like if I were in a conversation with him, I might be like, whoa, is that really what you meant by that thing? But I didn't think it was anything that I was like, oh, this guy is like, he just actually like has really bad opinions about things.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it is fully like the other half of the equation too, is like we are in a era where it is, we are, how do I say this? In popular culture, it's not super cool to be rich.
Yeah.
Especially the more rich you are, the worse it seems like it is. So it's just his whole character in this movie is like kind of primed for a 2024 eye to be like, oh God, why? But also that is Darcy. Yeah. So like, because he is like upper class and he's like richer than
the Bennetts.
Bingley in Pride. So I mean that he has to be what he is here. And I don't think it's like that the writing is bad or whatever. I just like think it's like I was like hitting a speed bump.
Don't you think
time.
Also though that the delight in rich characters like continues to be a part of the rom-com genre? I mean, the fantasy of like what if the guy you fell in love with was also secretly a billionaire is like,
yes,
like, everybody wants that, and the whole point of rom-com is just to have it's like fulfillment. So
billionaire with a heart of gold, where you realize like, oh, they're actually just a person too. Like it's not. You can like, you know, it's not just all cold.
Yeah. But I think like, because like another great option for that exact story is like Crazy Rich Asians. Right. But they go out of their way that he is like just he's like has no character flaws other than like he really likes his mom pretty much.
Yeah.
He's kind of like just like his flaw is that
he didn't tell her that he was like a massive billionaire.
He's not like standing up to like be like, I don't want this or whatever.
Right.
Just,
But he's like a good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even in Pride and Prejudice, like I feel like in this movie, they kind of hit it over the head a little bit more of like, oh, he owns all these hotel chains. Like when he first walks in the room in Pride and Prejudice, they know like, oh, I've heard that he's wealthy. but it's not until later when she goes to see his mansion, and like the corollary in this one is going to see the hotel for the first time, that she like really understands how rich he is. But at that point, she's already started to fall for him a little bit. So like, I love in the Keira Knightley version, like she comes to the house and she gives this laugh of like, of course, I like thought this guy was the worst. I'm starting to like him. And it turns out he has like the most beautiful house I've ever seen. So like, that's supposed to be kind of the trajectory. And like, yes, rich people are problematic or whatever, but like I'm here for a rom-com.
I'm not trying. Sorry, to be clear, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, and I want to espouse the correct view. Like I'm just saying what my experience was while watching this movie and why I feel like I was having trouble.
RJ is giving Adam such a look right now.
I know. I don't know why.
He's like, okay, yeah.
You look like a grumpy old man right now, RJ. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm just here to have fun. I like their dancing and their songs.
But I think like the things that work for me, Mrs. Bakshi.
Oh, she's
incredible. I love the sisters. And I love that like friend number when they just go through the village and like are buying clothes or whatever. They're getting ready for the wedding.
Getting married, basically.
That was peak of me being like, this song is terrible, but I'm enjoying the experience of this scene.
Yes.
There's a moment where like this song has nothing to do with anything, but it's like, let's do a dance number.
Yeah.
To celebrate the town.
Yeah. And I loved that like not everybody in the chorus was like great at dancing. Like they were just like everyone just looked like they were having fun in this film. And I was like very on board for all of that energy.
Yeah, totally.
I loved the Mrs. Bakshi that in the wedding scene that replaces like the first ball of everybody meeting each other, that they're doing like the boys and girls dance, and then all of a sudden she's just like doing a verse of like I'm so beautiful even though I'm older or whatever, and her husband has to come and be like, okay dear, that's great, let's leave, because there's all these things that Pride and Prejudice has to do to establish that Mrs. Bennet is like embarrassing socially and like doesn't really understand cues and stuff like that, and it's like such an efficient way to establish that in this song where you're like, oh, she's clearly not supposed to be singing right now, she's not supposed to be taking the attention, is she? And she's just doing it. And so I thought they had a lot of really good fun ways of establishing those kinds of things, especially like because Pride and Prejudice is so, the stuff like that is so based in like a society that's obsessed with social graces that it can be hard to translate it to a modern context. So you almost need her to be like way more outlandish to make it clear that this is, at this point, it's rude, because what's rude now, like the bar for being rude is a lot higher, basically. So like that. And then when I'm just going to call them their Austin name. Sorry. When Bingley is talking, it like comes to visit, and then she's just like, yeah. And so like you two are going to like get engaged soon. Right. And that's just like, obviously you don't say that in front of the guys. Like they did a good job of making it all clear when she's being too much. Yeah.
Yeah. They make it very clear that she is kind of like the reason why she thinks it's like it's her doing.
Yeah. They do have a harder time because in Pride and Prejudice, it's partially that the family lacks decorum, but also that they're worried that Jane only is marrying him for his money, which I guess you could also make part. I mean, that can be part of a modern. Obviously, people do get married for money, but I think they wanted to kind of like steer a little bit away from that, because obviously the idea of like marriage as the only means of economic gain is like not true anymore for women.
Yeah. Should we play a song?
I guess I ruined the conversation. Sorry.
Adam's just so mad at how well they show rich people in this.
Adam sympathizes with the rich person, and he can't forgive himself for that. So.
Yes.
Let's listen to a little bit of Bale Bale, which is the like wedding. The opening wedding number that Molly was just talking about. Great. It's great.
I really liked Balraj and Jaya. I like bought into their chemistry a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
I like wanted to see them, get married at the end. They were just very sweet. It's like the classic, like they are the real like ingenue couple because they were just like love at first sight, like head over heels.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Balraj, I saw it more than with Jaya, but that's also, again, Pride and Prejudice of like that part of the reason also that Balraj is able to be spoken or like convinced out of going for it is because Jane in Pride and Prejudice is like she keeps her feelings to herself and she doesn't tend to show her affection. And so like Lizzie has to tell Darcy, like Jane hardly shows her true feelings to me. Like she is not a person that it's going to be obvious that she's in love, but like she very much is. And so that's part of the character.
I would say the only thing that it did kind of rub me in weird in this adaptation of like, it was just like a conversation that happened that like Darcy convinced Balraj that like Jaya may just be marrying for money. And like, but it is such a big reaction to like the last like 15 minutes of the movie that we were like, oh, like, I mean, we know it's gonna like resolve, but I remember being shocked of like how it felt later, so late in the movie that was revealed. And then like, it gets like swept up at the end. But I wonder if like, is that more of like the Bollywood kind of like really melodramatic, really big stakes, you know what I mean? Like
you're saying like that
it was like Darcy who like in a conversation that we don't even see says like, because we hear it from Georgina, like it sounds very harsh, obviously, like to Lolita's ears, but
so I think it's because in Pride and Prejudice, Darcy proposes to Elizabeth maybe about halfway through, just after she's found out that he got Bingley and Jane to part from each other. And so it's supposed to be that in Pride and Prejudice, she's slowly starting to come a little bit more around on him. But then she finds out this thing about like, oh, he broke her sister's heart, basically. So she's like in the worst headspace about him. And then he proposes to her and she's like, she says to it, like, you'd be the last man I'd ever be prevailed upon to marry. Like, it's not happening at all. And I think that they delayed that whole sort of proposal and then finding out about Jane and Bingley thing in this one because they spend more time of them like dating. It's all the stuff that happens in the US that's sort of like, it's added on, so then that like extends the time before the failed proposal kind of part of the story can happen. Whereas, like I said, I think it's more like halfway through in the original.
Yeah, they don't really like form a connection in India at all. Like it has to happen, and in this version, it happened. Yeah, like all in the US, a little bit in London.
Right. Yeah. Although then,
yes, on the flight. That's when it starts.
To London.
They go back on the way back.
Wickham?
Yeah, they're back in London.
The Wickham and younger sister thing happened in London, right? Yeah.
Or not Jaya.
What's the little sister's name?
Laki.
Yeah.
I have to talk about this diva, Kieran, because the entire movie, I was like, am I supposed to not like her? Is she supposed to, like, she's a bitch. She's a bitch in this movie.
Yeah.
But then, like, you're meant to, in certain parts, she's helping. In some parts, she's not. Like, when they're in London, she basically lies to the sisters and makes them believe that Balraj is there. And then she's like, oh, didn't I say Balraj isn't here? Sorry. To kind of like show that like they're easily fooled in order to like show like this is actually what life is like here. And this is our life here in London. Isn't it lavish? It's grand, whatever. But then like she's like, I think she like supports Darcy and Lolita because she always does these little moments of like Darcy's right there. Oh, there's Lolita there. So it's very.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. This character in Pride and Prejudice very clearly wants Darcy for herself. Is sort of the funny thing, and so like that's part of the.
I thought that's what they was going for,
but it felt like they decided in this one they were like, no, she's not interested in Darcy. She's like totally on board with him getting with Lolita.
Well, that's what I thought when she asked Darcy to put sunscreen on her back, and I was like, oh, okay, she's like a rival, but. She's not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why they died.
It fizzled. Yeah. It was so fascinating. But instead, we see Darcy's
Darcy's girlfriend, current girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, Anne,
arranged girlfriend,
maybe never actually dating? Question mark.
It's weird because in the Wikipedia article summary, it calls her his ex-girlfriend, but the film does not say, he does not ever specify what she is. Yeah. His whole thing is he's like, I didn't know my mom was going to bring her.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but who is she? That's not, we don't care that your mom brought her. We're trying to figure out who this is.
In Pride and Prejudice, they're like betrothed from birth. And so it's like technically he's promised to her, but like not of his own will or anything like that. And that he doesn't seem at all interested in it. It's hard to do a similar thing in a modern movie.
Well, they try to by being like his mom's trying to set her up with set him up with like an acquisition basically.
Yeah.
And which obviously leads Lalita to be like, so it's primitive if we do it, but it's fine for you.
Yeah.
I think I wish this whole film had just been in India. I understand that he comes to India at the end and they ride the elephant and he does the drums and the whole thing. But I don't love that the aspect, like she starts to fall for him when she's out of
not India. In her element.
Like I hate that it's like he gets to charm her by being like, and here's a helicopter, which is, it's fine if he's rich, but it's like, I liked so much of like her being so like proud of her culture that it was like kind of a bummer to me that she like gets so swooned easily by like a little Mexican bar in like little Mexican restaurant in LA.
I guess I didn't think she was being swooned by the Mexican restaurant. I assumed that she would understand this is not a fancy restaurant. But see, I loved America because I loved the Mr. Coley's house and all of that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I agree that maybe we didn't need the like ornate American over the top, he's so rich kind of stuff necessarily in the US.
I did love Chandra, who was like, he's a great guy and like I'm happy.
I thought that was very sweet.
In full Juicy Couture. Like she is wearing like, full I love America.
Yeah. She's assimilated. Good for her.
She's bought Old Navy. Like she's ready.
I thought that was such a sweet moment of her, because it is weird if you were to really think about it. It's not weird in Pride and Prejudice, right? Like it takes place in 18 whatever. People lived for 20 years and then they dropped dead.
Well, and also like you had to get married.
You had to get married.
She's like, girl, I'm like 26. I'm a spinster and I don't have any prospects. Like I'm going to marry this guy.
Oh, honey.
He's fine. Girl. Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk age? Adam looked it up. Molly, how old do you think the actress Aishwarya Rai was when she filmed this movie?
Wasn't she like 30?
Yes.
31.
She was 31. Yeah.
And she looks
like 23.
That women in their early 30s are the most attractive women. You don't believe me, but here you go.
And then I went to her Wikipedia page and her current Wikipedia picture is her on a red carpet in 2017. So fully 13 years after this film, and she looks the same, if not better than in this film. And I was like, there's no hope for all the other girlies in this movie. There's no hope. Yeah. That's why it's like kind of funny when Coley comes in, he like kind of has eyes for Jaya at first.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, well, I guess. Yeah. Lalita.
Right. Yeah. No, the idea that anyone would think that Lalita was not the most attractive sister is laughable for sure.
It's crazy. Yeah. She won. If you don't know who she is, by the way, she won Miss World in 1994. And so she is like officially one of the most beautiful women on earth.
I mean, you've probably seen a picture of her before. I'm not very in the know about Indian media. And like I saw this woman was like, oh, that actress. Yeah. I know who that is. Yeah.
Yes.
She reminds me of like an Indian Ava Mendes, like the way her eyes are just so striking.
I said she looked like there are times where she reminded me of Kirstie Alley in Cheers, like young Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, okay.
The hair
is doing a lot of the work. Yeah. The face shape,
but she's gorgeous. Yeah,
she's
so
gorgeous.
Pretty. Ashwarya.
I thought it was Aishwarya.
That's what Adam said first.
I thought that's what you said to begin.
Fuck. Wait, I can find it because it's in the Roger Ebert review. He actually he says it. He spells it out. Aishwarya.
Oh, okay.
Aishwarya Rai.
Sorry.
Yeah, she looks gorgeous.
I really tried.
The costumes in this movie.
The costumes in this movie. This is like everything I complained about in Brigadoon, where I was like, where are the fucking colors? They were all in this movie. Every color is in this film. It was so stunning. I said to RJ, I was like, I've always wanted to go to an Indian wedding. Like I think it would be everybody knows Indian weddings are like a full weekend. It's like a 72-hour experience. Mm-hmm. It's a whole thing. I would want to go so bad. And then I also was like, but I know there would be some disappointment that like a full Bollywood dance number doesn't actually happen during the wedding itself.
Like dancing. Yeah.
I think there's dancing, but it's not going to be like an elaborate spectacle in the same way. But and then I was mad because I was like, we should have had Indian food last night and we didn't even eat Indian food.
I will say, like, I know that weddings are obviously a huge thing. And so having a wedding in a town would make an impact. But like, I looked up Amritsar and it seems like it's still kind of a city. And I was like, is this a small enough place that like everyone in the market's so grateful because you brought a wedding here and that's like bringing in business or whatever? I was like, I feel like maybe we're exaggerating the impact that this one wedding could have on the economy of this small city, you know?
I mean, I guess when your comparison is like New Delhi, which is like what, the 6th most populous city on the globe, I guess any city would seem like the country in comparison.
Right. But like, I used to live in Madison, Wisconsin, which is like not a big city by any stretch of the imagination. But like, even if you had a very big wedding, I don't think it would like make a huge impact on the local economy there, you know? Yeah.
I also forgot that because when I was looking up reviews, I forgot that Bollywood comes from Bombay, but Bombay is now Mumbai. I didn't know. I don't think I realized that was the name change, or I don't even know if name change is correct. It might have been the original name, and then the British were like, it's actually Bombay. Yeah, it's actually Bombay. Sorry, it's Bombay. But obviously there's a very interesting. I thought the part when the dad is like arguing for India and being like, well, it's a new, like we just recently gained our independence, blah blah blah. I thought that I actually liked that scene a lot.
I do too. Yeah.
There was a lot I liked about this movie. Yeah. Okay.
You're the one that's getting defensive, not us, girl. Yeah.
You're the one making faces.
Well, you're the one who's uncomfortable when you don't like a movie that we're watching, which I think, but like that we both liked. I don't think you like being the outlier because
I don't like being the outlier
because you like going into the movie.
Well, I think you don't like being the outlier. You don't like being the only one.
You like it when you two liked it and I didn't like it. That I think is your favorite dynamic.
I think Adam just likes in general if you guys are on opposite ends. Yeah. But when I'm not in it, he's like, well, wait.
Yeah.
I did like that they went to Goa too. I do think that all the conversations they have about India were all very interesting, and I'm curious, like Adam, like after coming back from the Philippines, because I felt a lot of similarities from the Philippines of just like how just life is different.
It's a different world.
It's a different world.
Yes, and like
it's like hard to explain, but I think the movie does a good job of contextualizing it to be like comparing it to what, you know, like what like Darcy may know about obviously like the UK, and like kind of contextualizing like that, whether it's from Lalita's lines to kind of like jab back at him, or even just to like the lines, like of the dad and the mom, like how they kind of share their concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a question?
I was gonna ask Adam, like, how did you feel about like after
the Philippines?
After the Philippines, after going to also like a developing country?
A country in the global south.
Yes. However I'm supposed to say that now, because I don't know.
It was
like, did it still feel like quote unquote foreign, or did you feel like,
it wasn't as, it was pretty what I expected. Mm-hmm. Like there were definitely things that there's no, as a person who's only lived in America, there's no way I could have, or even like visited, there's no way I could have been prepared for like, they even reference it in this movie of like the traffic, the like getting around. There's no order to moving about. You just like kind of go and hope to God no one dies, and no one does die. And like that, those things I think I was like more shocked by. But I don't know. I guess I don't know what the real question is, but I felt fine.
I mean, I think I was just more talking about like the cultural, how embedded in the culture that it's not just like, it's not that it's wrong to like want to obviously like marry. Like that's such an important part of the culture. It's like you do this in order to like, you know, succeed in life. Stuff like that, where I feel like it's so easy with a lens from someone that has not been to like to that country or know that culture. You're just like, well, that's clearly like wrong, not wrong, but like that's antiquated, or like that shouldn't be how it is now.
That's interesting. I don't feel that the portrayal in this movie or my impression of Indian culture generally is that they have any more of a sense of getting married is an essential accomplishment that all adults should do than I feel that we have in the US. Like, certainly, yes, the arranged marriage thing is different. And I would say that like the way that Lalita talks about it here is like very much my impression now of arranged marriage. I think if I was watching this in 2004, I would have had Darcy's view of like, that seems kind of backwards. But like, I've now since learned more about how people actually practice it, and like heard the argument of like, doesn't it make sense that like your friends and family who know you best would be like good people to shop around on your behalf and like, you know, introduce you to people they think would really meet the parts of the compatibility they think are really important. And like, I think it's a totally fine way of people making matches, but I don't feel, I know that their ceremonies are a bigger, more elaborate, like the wedding itself is a different thing. But I feel like the idea of like, you have to get married and you aren't a successful adult until you do, I feel like exists just as much in my mind in the US as it does in India.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do like that kind of both parents play. I mean, the dad isn't like fully like you should marry for love, but he's definitely more of like a.
Oh, but they kept it. Well, they didn't say it exactly the same way, which is fine. But like the scene where her mom is like, "I'm never going to talk to you again.
I'm never going to talk to you." Yeah.
And then he said in the movie version of Pride and Prejudice, he says like, "Well, Lizzie, from this day forward, you'll have to make a difficult choice. You should be estranged from one of your parents. For if you don't marry him, your mother will never talk to you. And if you do, then I'll never talk to you again."
Yeah.
It's so sweet, but that's not about. I don't know if it's that Mr. Bakshi is about you have to marry for love. It's about like you have to make your own choices. And the kind of like it's assumed then when it's married, then you would pick someone for love. But like I think if Lalita came to him and said, "Hey, I do have a very practical view of this. I just want to marry someone who's stable. Like that's all I really care about. And I'm choosing this man because I think he's going to give me the life that I want." I feel like he would support that just as much as her saying, "I'm picking this man because I'm in love with him."
Yeah. Yeah.
He's definitely in the canon of like dads who only have daughters who are like very kindly.
Yes.
Like there's like, that's definitely like a trope. I'm thinking of also like the Little Women dad, who is also like a similar
the fiddler in a sense too of like,
yeah.
He just has a bigger heart to his daughters.
Yeah. I think also what helps with the whole Darcy and some of his kind of bias towards India is the character of Mr. Kohli and how much the characters are able to then talk out this like foreign Indians versus Indian Indians kind of thing. And I feel like they're able to like get down to things in a more substantive way in the conversations with Kohli, in the way that it's like when Darcy says stuff, she's just like, "Oh, screw you. Like, why would I listen to your opinions about anything?" Right. But when it's Kohli, it's like they have to engage with it a little bit more. And then you get to hear some of her, more of her why behind like what she values about India, which I think is really cool and really well done. And I think it's also interesting how Wickham, the way that Wickham really charms her is by being like, "I don't know, people just have it all figured out here in India. It's like way better than the US, you know?" And so like he also
he's like the opposite.
He's the opposite of Darcy, which she really likes, but then like it's pretty like insubstantial really what he appreciates about it. Whereas Darcy eventually is like, "Well, I think the way you value family is really beautiful, and that's really in contrast to my own experience." Like the things he ends up appreciating about India are much more substantive and about like the people and the culture than the Wickham's things. I feel like are more sort of like people are just living free here, man. Like, you know, that's kind of the whole thing. Yeah.
And then like the mom, Darcy's mom at the end, who's like, well, I can, you know, we have Deepak Chopra and I have yoga here. So and I was like, please stop talking, please.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then the hardest line in the movie when she says, people haven't stopped going to Italy just because a Pizza Hut opened around the corner. Oh,
girl, so good. The way her character is written in this movie is so like just like perfectly pitched. Like she nails it. I just think like Lalita's character, if it was any less than this, it would like fall apart. But she's like pitch perfect for this.
Yeah. But also like you can tell that these are real things that people have thought and like have wanted to say.
Well, but it's also like you love watching,
especially like British Indian, like people like Indians living in the UK. You can tell this is like sentiments that like we've wanted to say.
Yeah, and it is the thing of like, you can feel that there is the thing sometimes when a writer writes a movie and the like retorts are so good that you're like, there's no way anyone comes up with that on the spot. But like, God, wouldn't it be amazing if you could? Like, it's like that, like, you just like, you wish, I don't know. There's like a phrase I'm thinking of, but yeah, it's some of her retorts are so good at this movie.
Right. Because rom-coms are about fantasy, and the fantasy is that you would come up with something that good to say in the moment. I suspect, I mean, I don't know because I'm pretty far from this culture. So like, I could be wrong that any of this is authentic, but like, I feel like it was written by, or there was someone on the writing team who like knows all these layers and knows authentically, like, here's how, when you're living in India and then somebody comes back from the US, like, here's how they tend to talk about the difference between the US and India. And like, I felt like probably this was coming from a place of knowledge about all of these different dynamics between all of these different countries.
Yeah. Especially the like Mr. Kohli and the Bakshi's conversation of, because that is like, I mean, that's something that like Filipinos talk about, of like, you know, people living in the Philippines versus people who move. And it's that like whole thing of like, then you move, then you become a model minority in America. And then you kind of like, it almost becomes like either a survival kind of mode to kind of like be like, well, I did the right, quote unquote, right thing by moving.
Right. Oh my God. The wildest line is when Mr. Kohli is like, oh, like these are all very professional business people. These aren't like 7-Eleven petty crab drivers or whatever. It's like, whoa, boy.
I know.
Okay.
Girl.
Yeah.
Just because you got lucky does not mean that it is not.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole thing of like, you know, people come here people come to America with like full PhDs, but like none of that transfers. So they work like service jobs.
Yeah. I thought another thing that like, obviously Austen, it's like it's a novel of manners and it's all about class structure. And so I thought the way that they used many different types of characters in this and the way that they talk in order to signify those differences in different ways. Like it's not an English person reading a book in 1813 and being like, oh, I got it perfectly. But it's still like we're able to take that context and still like push it into the current world and not lose kind of any of that, which was really cool too.
Right. Let me just say this one thing about them choosing to make Darcy an American, though.
It's weird, right?
Jarringness.
Why isn't he British?
The jarringness of his accent, in contrast to these beautiful Punjabi and English accents. Everybody at this party sounds so intelligent. And then he's there being like, well, I don't know. The traffic seems a little bit off here. Like, it's just, you're so aware of like the nasaliness of the American. Like, he just sounds like a fool at this whole wedding.
And it's also worse because he's a New Zealand actor. He's originally New Zealand. So it's not even his original accent.
Doing an American accent. I will say it was hilarious.
Him and Wickham are from New Zealand.
Yeah. I also thought it was very funny, the whole pants thing at the wedding. Like, because he is supposed to like say, no, I don't want to dance when he first meets Lizzie, which like you later find out like he just doesn't know how to dance. He's self-conscious about it or whatever, but they made it this whole bit about like his pants have literally fallen down, so he like cannot dance. And so it's like such a funny comedy of errors of like her thinking he's brushing her off, but he like literally can't dance. He doesn't have pants on. Yeah, it's funny.
The other thing I thought though, that like going back to like how they use different ways to like draw the distinction. You're supposed to like Wickham at first. You're supposed to be like kind of charmed, just like Lizzie is. Yeah. And I think it was smart for them to be like, Darcy should sound American so that Wickham can sound British because everyone's going to be like, well, British accent's way nicer than American accent. But it, like, again, it's like another layer of being like, but he's not everything you think he is.
I think though, as well, it probably is that there are a lot of feelings still about the UK and India. I wonder if they felt like if he was from the UK, if it would be like too heavy on the class thing in a way that would like make it not as fun for Indian audiences. If they were like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of another corollary, but like it might, if he was like a white British guy, it might feel a little
that she ends up with.
Yeah. But that's like, what's that saying about? Yeah.
Can we talk about Wickham for a second? So
he's so hot.
He is hot. He's married to Rachel Lee Cook. I just learned the actor.
Yeah.
I looked him up because he said his last name is Gillies, and I was wondering if he's related to Liz Gillies because he looks like they could be. But anyway, so he gets Lockie to like exchanges emails with her and whatever. He gets her to come to his little houseboat. And okay, so in the novel Pride and Prejudice, right, Wickham runs away with Lydia and says they're going to elope and it's going to ruin the family. And like that's the big crisis near the end of the novel that then Darcy's able to solve for them. And it's like the last gesture that Lizzie needs to show, like, oh my God, he really cares about me. So in this one, he's getting this younger sister to like chat with him, and then they're going off together in London, and he's kind of like making some moves that it feels like she's like maybe not reading or whatever, but they never tell us how old Lockie is, right?
No, they reference many times that she is the youngest one.
And she's referenced,
but I don't think she is actually. I think Maya is the youngest one. Mrs. Bakshi
would say stuff like, you're too young to be looking at men or thinking about
Yeah, she would say things about her being too young. And then so in the novel Pride and Prejudice, it's a similar thing where it's like the thing that Darcy finally tells Lizzie to say, this is why I actually don't like him, is in the novel, he had proposed to Georgiana when she was only 15, said, we're going to run away together and blah, blah, blah. And then when Darcy's father says, okay, but I'm not going to give you any money, then he dips. And so it's made clear like, oh, he never loved her. It was just a ploy to get her money. Mm-hmm. And so in this
crazy, Alexis Bledel.
Yes, he got a 16-year-old Alexis Bledel pregnant and then abandoned her.
Hi, quickly, that's rape.
So, but I guess like the thing is like, how old is Wicca? Like, I'm not totally clear. How old was he when that happened?
How old is she supposed to be now? Is she supposed to be in college?
Yeah.
Nothing is clear.
Nothing's clear. They don't say ages.
The thing is like nothing is clear. They never tell us Lockie's age. They tell us Georgiana's age at the time that she got pregnant by Wickham, but they don't tell us Wickham's age at that time. We don't even know we don't know his age right now. We don't know how old Lalita is supposed to be in the film. Like, we don't know any of this. So it's very much on a line where you're like, so is he like a criminal or is he just a douche? Like, you don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Because depending on how old he was, it makes a really big difference. Yeah.
Because looking back at it now, maybe he was like 17 when Georgiana stuff
Let's say
happened.
theoretically he was 17 because that would be the most generous.
The
most generous.
Right? And he was a scared kid and over his head, and then that would be okay. That's not a great showing of your character, of course, and you could have gone back and tried to undo it in some way. You could have tried to like make reparations in some way, but
maybe that's why that's why he went to India.
But they make a point of being like, he got her pregnant to try to trap her into marrying him.
Yeah,
not that he like it was like an oops, like I didn't know, like it was almost like it was like the reverse of the trope, which is like within whatever, blah, 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 get pregnant to trap a man, whatever. It was like the opposite of that.
I think, I think the thing is that the elopement that happens in Pride and Prejudice is meant to be this huge life ruining event. And again, it's hard to come up with something that's equivalent now.
Right.
But I felt like if this was made now, like they would have to be clear about like, okay, is it a crime though that you're talking about? Or
she wouldn't have been like, they would have been like when she was 18, like that's how they would have fixed it. Would have just been like,
but I think what he did at the end with Lockie, like if that went through, that would have been a crime.
I don't know how old Lockie is. That's the thing.
That still felt like kidnapping.
Bad, yes, that feels kidnapping.
I don't think he was kidnapped. I think he was.
No, because she writes the letter. Yeah.
I think he was taking her around the town and he was trying to turn it into a date and she maybe didn't fully understand that it was a date, or like wanted it to be flirtatious, but didn't want it to be like an actual. She didn't want to like actually.
But she wrote
physical,
the letter.
like,
but she wrote the letter saying she's running away with him.
Yes.
So she intended not leave London.
Yeah, because she like asks to go shopping, and that's her ruse to like leave, and then it's like, and I'm never coming back.
Right. Okay. I guess he tried to kidnap her. Yeah. I guess that's what happened.
But it was funny because
kidnap if you can't. I mean, yeah.
But if
if she's 18, let's say, if she's a legal adult and he asked her to run away with him and then she went with him, I guess that's not kidnapping. Yeah.
Right. That's just what some people. That's elopement.
But the wild part of the whole thing
there you go. It's elopement.
It's elopement.
with Lockie was that like even it was clear that Lolita liked Wickham. She like Lockie was like fully like flirting with Wickham, or at least like showing interest in Wickham, like at her own house.
Yes, they set that up. They set that up very early on in the film, and I don't know how it is in Pride and Prejudice, but
I feel like
I felt like I was like, I can see this coming. Yeah.
It's definitely where it was Pride and Prejudice. It's a surprise in Pride and Prejudice, but it's because I believe Lydia goes off to like she like goes off to another town with an aunt and uncle for a while, and then you're supposed to understand that they meet and start to flirt there, and so it's like an off-screen thing that you don't see it coming. Yeah, yeah.
I notice a lot that happens a lot in Austin's where it's like someone comes with a letter or an announcement.
Well, we had the whole scene. We had the whole scene of this movie where they were all waiting on emails to be sent, and RJ was like, great. "What is happening?" And I was like, "It's the letters. It's letters in Austin books where it's like, and now we wait for mail."
Yeah.
So that I did like that 1-to-1 of being like, and then the power went out, so of course you can't get email. The power's out, girl. But I did. There was a point in the one point where they were like, you were texting. They said something about texting, and then I fully had to be like, were we texting in 2004? I was like, what? Had that started already? I could not remember like what the series of timeline was on cell phones and texting.
I think it was still like maybe you were paying per text, right? It was like an expensive thing to text back then.
You were definitely only texting if you were in the same phone carrier, like singular to singular. I was telling a kid that I had to leave, but I was like, look, I don't want to get a call that somebody needs my help with you. Like, I hope you're going to behave yourself or whatever. And when the counselor goes, yeah, I don't need to spend my minutes calling Molly for her to come back here. It's very funny.
So let's listen to a little bit of No Life Without Wife, which is the sister song
after meeting Coley.
This is very there's like, I was gonna say it's like Matchmaker in Fiddler, but it's not really like about dreaming of another man. I mean, I guess it is. It's dreaming of not this man.
It's Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee. It's a girls being girls together talking about guys.
In pajamas.
Yes, girls in pajamas making fun of one girl that ends up being like, well, if I did want to get married, it would be this.
Yeah. That's some fun. That's some frivolity. You know what? We have had a dearth of musicals that have had no big numbers and no joy.
Yeah.
So it was lovely.
Molly,
almost every song in this is like
a number.
Yeah, a number. Yeah. I hate it musically. It's like the worst song I've ever heard musically, but I love
it's so much fun. The energy.
I love the energy. Yeah. I love girls being girls. I love Coley's physical comedy and any scene he's in. He's having so much fun.
His laugh thing he does as his like tick of being like is so funny.
This song specifically, like, it's ska. It's like playing around with ska, but because it's like, you know what I mean? Because it's got the horns and it's like, and I think it's very 2004.
I think it's definitely trying to be like, this is the sound
of pop song.
Coley.
Did you guys see? I just saw this today on YouTube, but it's from like months ago. It's a cover of 1985, but for 2005. Do you remember the song 1985 that was like, it's like about a woman and being like, she's still
1985.
Yeah.
YouTube and Blondie.
Exactly. So somebody did a cover of that, but for 2005.
So they changed all the lyrics?
Yes, exactly. To make it about 2005 things. I'm going to send it to you.
Perfect.
I don't have anything else to say for the podcast. Just everybody look it up.
Great.
If your mind is going, what was going on in 2004? Maybe this will help, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And then next year we'll have a 2025 version.
Well, we're not going to know what we're nostalgic for in 2025 because we'll just be living it. That's not how nostalgia works. A damn.
The other song I wanted to play because I was like, oh, this is so clearly.
Oh, it's dubbed. It's not them singing.
Yeah, I'm forgetting her name now again.
Aishwarya.
Aishwarya. Is she dubbed throughout this movie?
In the music, in the songs?
Yeah. I just thought that her singing wasn't that great. And I was assuming that they would be dubbed because I understand that that's kind of the standard practice for Bollywood films. And so I was like, I wonder why her singing voice isn't better if she's
I do wonder if it's like writing Bollywood style songs in English makes it sound awkward.
Or it could also just be like what's considered good singing is like very subjective. Like maybe what is considered the best vocalization in Bollywood is just sounds different to my ear. And so I don't interpret it as the best singing possible. Yeah.
Because it feels like it's almost like verse where they're just like the lyrics are like reciting like what's happening. Not that it's like plot, but it's like describing like, because of your wedding, you will bring good fortune.
Yeah.
The town thinks you know, like it's very, it felt very like verse at times.
दो दिल क्यों हैरान है तुमसे कहें या हम ना कहें Show them the way, take them to love Things only hurt, now they want to be Two beings with one big heart For their whole lives not to part Show them the world, take them to love
No, this is clearly LA. They took a helicopter from LA to the Grand Canyon.
I just need to know how fast helicopters can fly for me to weigh in on the feasibility of this.
How fast can helicopters?
I'm going to assume they go at top speed to take these tourists to the Grand Canyon.
Between 150 to 178 miles an hour.
So can you check helicopter trip LA to Grand Canyon?
Distance LA to Grand Canyon. It's 485 miles. So it's like a 4 hour. It's like a 4 hour helicopter.
And I don't think helicopters have that much.
It's doable.
Gas.
All I'm
But
saying
I don't know.
doable.
Okay,
It was wasn't produced by Americans. They don't really understand the geography.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. It's produced by British people who think everything is like 10 minutes away from each other.
I have to say, as a person who lives in Southern California, it didn't even occur to me that this seemed offensively inaccurate. I just was in on the fantasy. I didn't think about it at all.
Well, that's why I was like, I thought there was a part of this. Obviously, they're in a real helicopter. I do think that's real. But there are parts of this sequence where it's like, I don't know what's real.
Yeah.
The gospel choir is not real. I'm going to stand firm in my belief and say that there was not a gospel choir singing on the beach.
Coming around them and then they fade away and then we see just the two of them on the beach. I think it's very clearly visually communicated. The gospel choir
I just think, I'm going to, I don't know what the movie really thinks it's trying to say about the gospel choir, but I think the gospel choir is not really there.
I thought the most confusing geography part was when they're in what to me looks like an English country house. Then she's like, and then there's the Thames. And I was like, I'm sorry, wait, where are we right now?
Oh, I thought it was weird. I've never been to London, but I didn't know houseboats existed in London. So then when they were like in his little houseboat, I was like, are we back in India? I was like, where are we?
I thought for a second we were in Amsterdam because that's, I feel like, where I associate there being houseboats. But I figured it all out by the end. Yeah.
By the end of the movie, I figured out what the plot was for sure. I do agree with Molly there.
But a double wedding, Molly.
A double wedding.
A finale.
A finale.
I mean,
Finale.
I don't know if they were really doing a finale number. There was not a finale number in the way that I perhaps am usually asking for, but it felt like we ended at the top of a crescendo for sure.
Yes.
It definitely felt like the closest to a finale number we've had in maybe 16, 17, 56 movies that we've watched.
It's, it's no running to a disappearing city or a disappearing town in the forests of Scotland.
No.
It's no apple orchard.
No apple orchard, and nothing ever will be.
And nothing ever
And thank
will
God
be.
for that.
Yeah.
Nothing ever will be the apple orchard.
So yeah, the no kiss thing I think is very jarring.
Because they slow it down as if they're
Yes.
about to kiss and then hug, which made me think, so did they film a kiss and then had to edit it in post? And I told Adam, is it because they don't want to show an interracial kiss? And I was like, is that a thing that's happening
That
right
would be
now?
wild. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
So I'm glad it wasn't the
sounds
case.
like
But
it's
yeah,
probably
it's
a
Because then I thought about it and I was like, none of the weddings we saw, none of them
They didn't
featured a
kiss,
kiss. Because like when Coley gets married, he like kisses her on the hand.
Yeah.
That's like how they do the,
okay.
and you may now kiss the bride, which I thought that didn't jar me at the time. Cause I was like, oh, they like met 3 days ago. Like that,
Yeah.
it's fine.
And Balraj, when he says goodbye to Jaya, he kisses her on the forehead. But I thought that was really sweet. It didn't even occur to me that was avoiding kissing on the lips. I just thought it was a
Yes.
very
Yeah, yeah,
sweet
yeah.
little gesture. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was
I don't know.
it was
It's
interesting
interesting,
enough that
yeah.
we had to look it up.
It's interesting too, like what different cultures draw as the line. Like what about kissing someone on the forehead is less intimate than kissing them on the lips? It's sort of like totally subjective. Like obviously we have different cultural expectations about who that's appropriate to do with and stuff like that. But like,
And
there's nothing really
intimacy,
inherent. Yeah. And even like when I also looked up the kiss thing, I saw some like message board kind of thread where people were talking about it. And there was somebody being like, yeah, it's like traditionally a thing in Bollywood films. And they're like, and I really appreciate it because it's great to like not be watching a movie with your kids and be like nervous about what's going to come up or whatever. And I was like, is this person saying they like get upset if there's a kiss in a movie that they're watching with their children? Like, I don't know. Like what?
a romance of a
I didn't know if
movie
they
where
just
there's
meant
a
like, I'm like, obviously, yes, there are like sex scenes that are uncomfortable if they come on when your family's around. I understand. But I was like, are you grouping kisses in with that? Like that's it's just so interesting how people have totally different lines about those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a gay Asian drama that Adam and I watched, and the two leads are two members of the same boy group.
Okay.
So everyone was like, they're not going to kiss. It's not going to happen because that's going to be too weird. But you know what they do instead, Molly?
What?
Someone is eating a lollipop and the boyfriend takes the lollipop and then puts it in his
Hot.
mouth. So like, how is that not gayer than just showing?
Yeah.
That
boys
is
kissing?
so.
Also, they're playing boyfriends, right? Like it's a romantic
Yes, they
thing
are
that
a
they're
couple.
in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so like
Yeah.
them kissing, like who cares? Like they're supposed to be romantically in love with each other. Okay, great, cool. People are weird. Yeah.
People are weird.
People are weird. People are weird.
Don't.
Molly, people are weird, Molly.
Where is this coming from?
Just whenever we say a line now, Adam just devolves
I
into
just
it.
start doing a Trump voice.
But like a, but
Is
like,
that Trump? Was that what you're going for?
well, if he
Molly, people are weird.
I don't think that's
Weird.
Trump at all.
people are weird. People over.
People everywhere. It's so bad. It's not good. I didn't say it was
not-
good.
I think it's a good impression. I think it's a good impression, but of someone who's not Donald Trump. I'm not sure who you're
Yes.
doing an impression of, but I think you're doing it
Yes.
spot on.
Gilbert Godfrey, maybe?
It's Donald Trump's dad is who I'm doing an impression of.
Fred, I think, right? Is that his-
Fred Durst. Yeah. Is that it?
Do you see the
We
thing
have
about his
thoughts?
teleprompter not going off, like his teleprompter going off today? So he just
Is that
started
the
talking about
movie
sharks or whatever.
This is Trump. I'm not going to talk about him. I refuse.
Yeah. So, I mean, truly my big question was like, was Kieran supposed to be a bitch or was like, what was the writing there?
Yeah.
Loved Maya's little Cobra dance. That was fun.
That was
Cobra
great.
dance was funny.
But that's like, okay, but that's like fun being like, okay, there are some parts of the culture that can be a little like crazy if you like are having a dinner and then all of a sudden then show you a
Well,
culture.
and yeah,
but I do
and
think that's
not
Maya
really-
being.
That's about Maya. I think that's about Maya, not
Yeah.
about the culture. But I think it is nice that like I feel like Westerners, we can have a very like everything in another culture is like significant and special and sacred, and we have to treat it all with so much respect. And so it's fun to see a movie where they're like, this thing is just a silly dance. That's all.
This is silly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a little like
The movie's not precious about.
Yes.
It stands up for its culture, but it's not precious about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
I think
nice.
that's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I recommend it. I recommend the movie to our
definitely
listener.
recommend
Yes.
this movie.
Yeah. Don't listen to Adam.
I think Adam is wrong about everything, and you should all watch this movie.
I think rich people are fine. So enjoy
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, we stand in support of this movie and rich people. That's where our loyalties lie. Okay, so
But I want to know what Roger Ebert thinks, Adam.
this movie has a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger Ebert had a review. I'm going to read a couple parts of this review because I think they're very interesting.
Okay.
This part, famously, I don't know if you know this, but famously, Roger Ebert was very into breasts.
I did not know that.
He multiple reviews over the course of his life
kind of fascinating.
are like, he just is like a big bosomy
Fascinated with the
woman,
bosom.
and he would just be like, great, the movie was perfect.
It was great because there was a woman with bosoms. I will say
he was a man who's very horny.
Yeah,
apparently.
this is maybe going to be a little bit crass. So Rita, feel free to turn it off for a few seconds. But I feel like, don't you feel like when we were younger, like it was assumed that all men were very into breasts, and then it's like, and then we had like the ass phase, and then we had like different like, and now I feel like being into breasts.
And now they're all
it's like,
gay.
yeah, now everyone I know is gay. But like, I feel like there was a time when no one would like identify as like, I'm into breasts, because it was assumed that that's what all straight men were into. And now it's more of like a distinct, like it's something to comment on actually of like, yeah, this guy just like loves breasts. But it used to be that just like we assumed everybody, that all men were equally into the same kind of breasts. You know what I mean? And now it's sort of funny to look back and be like, why did we all think that was whatever you wanted?
They assumed it was breasts because there was no, like, you back in the day you didn't want a butt, because there are like
Right.
episodes of Golden Girls where they like make
Your
fun
butt's
of
big. Yeah.
Blanche's butt, and she'd be
Yeah.
like offended by it, whereas now she'd be like, absolutely, I got a BBL.
Right.
And Rita and Nancy, that is a Brazilian butt lift, and Drake has gotten one, in case anyone is.
Did he? Oh, you're just starting beef. Okay.
Oh, you're starting beef. Showgays starting beef
Yeah.
with Drake.
Beef with Drake. Oh no.
Okay, so here's part of this review. Lalita is played by Aishwarya Rai, Miss World of 1994, recently described by at least one film critic, me, as not only the first, but also the second most beautiful woman in the world. According to the Internet Movie Database, first of all, so funny.
To be like writing it out.
Yes.
Also, well, I didn't even know that IMDb existed in 2004. Good for, you know what?
It was an
Good for
early
Roger
thing,
Ebert.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
on.
She was on that Netscape Navigator.
Yeah.
According to IMDb, the Queen of Bollywood is so popular she was actually able to get away with appearing in ads for both Coke and Pepsi.
That's
Wow.
that's saying
crazy.
something.
Yeah.
I also learned that she carried the Olympic torch in 2004, has a puppy named Sunshine, and was listed by Time as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. If this review is not accompanied by a photograph of her, you have grounds for a lawsuit. She exudes not the frightening seriousness of a woman who thinks she is being sexy, but the grace and ease of a woman who knows she is fun to look at and be around. What a smile. What eyes. Rai is not remotely overweight, but neither is she alarmingly skinny. Having deliberately gained 20 pounds for this role, she is the flower of splendid nutrition. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. He writes that in the review. Roger Ebert was horny. Please let it be known. Okay, blah, 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 blah. That was very interesting. Let's talk about this portion. RJ, avert your eyes from the screen because what I'm about to read is so crazy.
Okay, I'll look at you.
Okay. Will Darcy is a rich young New York hotel man visiting India because his old friend from London, Balraj, is the best man at the wedding. The Bakshi family is friendly with the family of the bride, and Mrs. Bakshi hopes her 4 daughters can meet eligible husbands at the event. That strategy works immediately for Balraj and Jaya, Lalita's older sister. For them, it's love at first sight. For Darcy and Lalita, it's not. Darcy makes tactless remarks, disagrees with the custom of arranged marriages, seems stuck up, is distracted by business, and creates the possibility that Lalita may have to follow her mother's instructions and marry the creepy Hollywood mogul, Mr. Coley. Things could be worse. Harvey Weinstein is also visiting India.
What?
So they were already making jokes about Harvey Weinstein being like a Predator?
In this review of this Miramax film that Harvey Weinstein produced. Well, he owns Miramax, so owned.
Okay, so now I have to reveal the thing that I texted you all to the listeners. So, okay, let me find the name of the woman. So we mentioned to you all that Darcy has a girlfriend person. There's a scene in a wedding where suddenly this woman shows up with his mom. That's maybe his girlfriend, maybe not. And I saw this and I was like, I feel like she looks a little bit familiar. Let me look up who it is. Her name is Georgina Chapman. She's a fashion designer and actress. And when I pulled her up on Google, it said she's 48 years old. That's fine. Spouse Harvey Weinstein. From 2007 to 2021. Whoops. I do believe I looked at her Wikipedia page. I think that she left him when all these allegations came out, and maybe it took a while for the divorce proceedings to finalize. But in a Miramax film in 2004, married him in 2007. I don't know. I mean, look, maybe this woman is just as much a victim as anybody else. Who knows what led up to them getting married? But it is hard to believe that if 2004 people were already making cracks like that, she wouldn't have known something was up. You know what I mean? So that's uncomfortable.
It's very strange.
That's wild. I mean,
there is a Harvey Weinstein sex joke in this review of a Miramax film. It's just like the layers on layers of what's going on.
Which is crazy because I remember listening to the Ronan Farrow book that he wrote about when he did the New York Times or the New Yorker Expo, the expose. And yeah, it really is like, it's like the worst kept secret of Hollywood, but it's like,
it was like everyone knew. I don't think when we say everyone knew that he was like a lech. I don't think people knew he was like raping people.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
I think they were just like, oh, it's just a creepy guy.
It's a creepy guy.
But you got to do what you got to do to make a movie, I guess. It's just so crazy. Anyway, that's Roger Ebert's review. I have the BBC review here. This is from Stella Papamichael. Chadha cannily entwines other aspects of Austen's novel, including a wickedly funny turn by Nadira Babar as Lolita's overbearing mother, keen to marry off her 4 daughters to nice Indian boys. Meanwhile, Darcy's half-brother Wickham messes... Also, half-brother? Huh?
Darcy's half-brother. Oh, I guess you mean...
Are we supposed to assume that
because
he's like the bastard son?
Or just like familial? I think that they maybe just mean like they grew up together. They're not using it in a literal sense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wickham messes with Lolita's affections and threatens to bring dishonor upon the family. Then there's a hilariously over-the-top Nitin Ganatra, a stereotypical coconut who's shopping for a wife to take back to LA. I don't know what coconut means in that context, but okay.
I guess it's that. That kind of guy.
The musical sets are lavish while setting up the Bollywood tendency for melodrama. One of the numbers, a pajama-clad knees up, brings to mind the Sandra Dee song from Grease, although the lyrics sometimes fall short. And while Ryan and Henderson don't generate the electricity quite befitting their suppressed passion, inherent charm wins out over their characters' foibles. For the most part, Bride and Prejudice is a romantic comedy that amply delivers on its Eastern promise.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's the inherent charm.
Yeah, it's not about their chemistry; it's their individual charm that carries it. I think that's super fair.
Yeah. Because he's very attractive. Like, and I don't remember. I
don't think he's attractive.
Do you get that feeling?
I think if he had been attractive, I might have liked this film a little bit.
Do you get that feeling in like, is Darcy supposed to be attractive in that sense?
No, I don't think he's supposed to be like a man you think he's hot as soon as he walks in the room. I think he's meant to be like a stoic, kind of grows on you. Like, you kind of see how attractive he is later, kind of a thing. But he's not supposed to be unattractive, but just sort of like he doesn't stand out as being attractive necessarily. Yeah. I don't think this guy's I don't know if I would agree he's very attractive, but I think he's attractive. So I feel like that fit the Darcy sort of level.
This is from SF Gate, which I think is the San Francisco Chronicle. It's their website. I don't know. Chadha brings a great sense of play to the musical senses. The actors lip sync to others' voices rather than sing, but part of the charm of Bollywood movies derives from their rather inorganic sense of pageantry. A wedding dance where Darcy and Lolita first meet turns into a boys versus girls showdown in chic, updated Nehru suits and satin dresses. When the people of Amritsar take to the streets to celebrate a wedding coming to town, Chadha's Skycam captures a sea of color-coded well-wishers in purples, pinks, and oranges. The most winning musical moment, however, is the least elaborate. Lolita's younger sister impresses the family's guests with a cobra dance shot in close-up that's hilarious in its ferocity. Bollywood films often match musical spectacle with heightened drama, but Pride and Prejudice lacks even mild drama, and its absence becomes glaring once the music stops. Conflicts between Darcy and Lolita seem manufactured, and this movie's version of Wickham, Darcy's rival for Lolita's affections, is an obvious sleaze from the start. The only man with charisma to match Rise is Naveen Andrews, but his character, a wealthy Anglo-Indian friend of Darcy's, is already taken by Lolita's older sister. So we're asked to root for Lolita to end up with the lesser dud of the two duds, a concept Austen might have found old-fashioned.
Wow. Okay, I don't agree.
And that was from Carla Meyer.
Okay.
But what do the people have to say? On Letterboxd, I think it had like a 3.4, something like that. I forgot to write it down.
Okay.
But these are the reviews that I found. Ruby Bells gave it 3 stars and said, "Waiter, I ordered a smoldering Darcy, not this milquetoast Bobo Luke Wilson."
Not Bobo.
Icky Deer gave it 5 stars and said, "About to start a fight with my white boyfriend because of this." And Sarah gave it 4.5 stars and said, "The way this absolutely slaps, the way this walked, so Pride and Prejudice 2005 could run." That's that. Because I did the summary so well today, I'm going to take the first
you need to take a little treat. Okay.
And I am going to say, gosh, my options here. Aishwarya Rai is perfect in this film. I would not give her a single note. I would not give the writing of her character a single note. I loved everything from the way whoever did her hair and makeup every day.
Oh, yeah.
I loved her costuming. I loved the way she was shot. I just loved her in this movie so much.
Yeah.
So Aishwarya Rai for sure. I'm
going to give it to Nitin Ganatra, who played Mr. Kohli, who's obviously my favorite character. I've talked so much about how funny I find him. Physical comedy,
big and broad.
And I think the movie needed a fully silly character to really round it out, and he brought it. Yeah.
RJ?
I'll actually give it to Gurinder Chadha, the director
and writer,
one half of the writing team. I think she did a really good job with this big task of not only taking like a beloved story, like people know, especially in like the UK audience, but then to take it and like personalize it into something that, although I do think there were efforts to try and make it palatable in order to kind of like explain a lot of the things that's probably hard for people to explain about, like, you know, just like what it's like to be in a different culture. I think the movie does a good job of doing that and then still being able to give like some nuanced conversations, especially with like the difference between like life in Amritsar versus life in Goa versus life in New Delhi, and then like life in India versus life as an Indian in America. Even in like in the UK too, like kind of how Balraj and Kiran differ from everyone else. So I think she did a really good job, and you know, obviously it was successful, and I think it still showed a lot of like what could get you excited about like wanting to learn more about the culture. Extremely adept filmmaking, and is able to show, like, I was able to understand all the differences about all the things it was showing about India without it feeling like it was like ham-fisted or needed to explain anything to me. Yes. This movie started with 2 like like middle-aged women, like auntie characters. One of them actually was the mom, Mrs. Bakshi, but you don't know at the start. And they're both gossiping. And that's how you find out most of the exposition about your main characters. And RJ and I, whenever this happens in anything we ever watch, we love it so much. It's probably, honestly, the best
easiest way to do an exposition dump that doesn't feel ham-fisted, because this is how women gossip. I don't want to just specify women, but like, it's such a thing. We talked about it once for a show we were watching on our channel for Boys Love, and one of our listeners like wrote like that there have been like that linguists have or anthropologists have figured out that the earliest forms of communication were probably due to like wanting to gossip about other people. Like that's where it all like started from, which is like truly incredible. It's great. Everybody knows it.
It's what connects culture. Like we all have aunties that
every person on earth. Yes. So I had to shout it out.
Yeah.
Molly, do you have a closer?
Sure. Pick another Austin to get a Bollywood treatment.
You don't mean Austin, Texas.
Well, I know 3 others. So
I feel like I don't know enough either to make this the question, but it's the only one I can think of.
I think Emma would be. I know that I'm coming off as an Emma stan because I've seen like so many Emmas, but Emma could be fun because it also. I think Emma's heroine is very interesting because it's that she wants to be active and like she wants to arrange relationships. So it could be fun. Like it's a very Hello Dolly like feeling in that way. That could be fun. Like maybe an Emma who does arrange marriages, but then like ends up having to fall in love as well, you know? Could be fun, especially since the weddings could be so lavish in Bollywood.
Yeah, I feel like a movie about a matchmaker falling in love sounds very lovely. I don't know.
Tried and true.
Sounds very good is all I was going to say. Yeah, it sounds like a good setup. Yeah.
Not in Austin.
Okay.
But just another book, Wuthering Heights. Sure.
Okay. And
never read it. Don't know what it's about.
Okay, great.
Just a book that I know is a contemporary
of Miss Jane.
Of Miss Austen. So
okay.
That's it. The Scarlet Letter.
Oh my God.
You
could do something there.
Little Women.
Little
Could
Women,
be a fun Bollywood
I was going to say
film.
that, but I want to see these sisters as Little Women. I just want to see the same cast as the Little Women characters.
Little Women,
Yeah. I think Little Women could be fun.
Yeah. I feel like Emma's also the only one that I really know well enough to actually comment on. And I love the idea of someone who's like a matchmaker for arranged marriages. I know that Persuasion, I didn't watch Persuasion because I heard that the new one that came out was bad. But I feel like it's about like kind of more introverted people and it all like hinges on a letter. And I feel like that could be a good melodrama, a plot that's all sort of about, you know, shy people, miscommunication, communicating through letters. I feel like, you know, there's something Cyrano in that. So I think that they could do something with it.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Sense and Sensibility. I truly don't remember a single aspect of Mansfield Park.
I don't know what happens in Mansfield Park, and I did watch it.
I just know it was Annie, and she was poor. Was that
she
it?
went to a place called Mansfield Park, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Truly.
That's it. That's the best I can do.
And we pretty much watched the book acted out in front of us.
Yes, we sure did. We sure did.
I always go back and forth if I do want to go back and like read an Austen. And I think
don't do Mansfield Park if you do. Isn't it so long?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it the longest one?
I think like audiobook is the closest that I'll do. Cause even the one that I like listened to with Emma Thompson, it was like, okay, I'm like, it's a performance.
I would read Sense and Sensibility.
I've never seen Sense and Sensibility. I probably would like it, but I don't know what it's about at all.
It's very good. It's very good.
Because Emma adapted it. She's the screenwriter for it.
Yeah, yeah.
She won an Oscar.
She won an Oscar.
Oh.
No, it's very good. Let's do that one in Bollywood.
Okay.
Let's watch next year on Showgays. Let's watch an actual Bollywood movie that we have to like have subtitles for.
I think this was a good introduction to it. I think it was written for a Western audience to kind of get their toes wet with Bollywood. And I'm glad we started here, but we got to go to the next level next time.
Yeah.
I think we can level up. Yeah.
I think we can level up for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. RJ?
Don't forget, Molly, no life without wife. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgaysmoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
Flashbulbs fill the air. Frenzy fills the night. A lonely girl swirl, lost in blinding light. Hello, I'm Diana.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.